Welcome to Bunch Formation, your newest favorite college football show. I am Chris Vannini, and I just spent a World Cup game with Japanese fans, and all I'll say is Vamos Nippon.
Domo arigato, Chris. I am David Ubben, and if you want to know what happened to giant shoulder pads, Chris, I got some answers for you.
Or you could just read the AI summary. No, David, you wrote a great story about giant shoulder pads. We got a themed bunch of stories going on The Athletic right now about the 1990s, what's changed since then in college football. And we're going to try to talk about that in the next episode of the show. We're aiming for later in the week. We'll do kind of a 90s look back to go into all that stuff. But today, we've got a fun show. We're going to draft the top 10 coaches in college football after doing quarterbacks in our last episode. We're going to get through some updates on Brendan Sorsby, new NCAA eligibility, North Dakota State's bowl hopes, a big Tennessee loss, and more. But David, we'll be together next week, finally, for the first time since I think the first episode of this podcast.
It doesn't seem right, but I think that's accurate to the best of our knowledge.
Yeah, you'll be here in Dallas for Big 12 Media Days. Yeah, Media Days are next week. So we're like really kind of back in the thick of things here. And then we'll be going together from there to Vegas for an athletic thing. So we're going to try to get 2 episodes together in person. We'll try to find some time to make it work. But looking forward to that. In the meantime,
Chris,
please,
do we have time for a brief sports bar complaint?
Do it. Let's do it.
So, as part of our being together, Chris, should the United States defeat Bosnia and Herzegovina,
as you can see in the jersey I'm wearing,
yes, we will be together for what is maybe a game against Belgium or Senegal on Monday. I think that's Monday. Anyway,
no, it's the 6th. You keep thinking it's the 7th. Monday. It's not. What day is?
That's the next Monday. I'm pretty sure. It doesn't matter. We'll probably be together watching this, and I had pitched the idea of watching the game at Cosm because I am fascinated by the Cosm experience. I've seen
for people who don't for people who don't know what it is. It's like a half sphere, like it's supposed to be like the sphere in Vegas, but it's like half of that. You get a giant screen. It's supposed to be like you're at the game.
Yeah, basically you're at the game. They're charging $250 to watch the game on this screen. What, Chris? Get your city under control. This is ridiculous. The idea of spending $250 to watch a game on a screen, I cannot in good faith do that. That's crazy.
Just like $1,000 for a ticket to the actual game, and yet, like the clips they showed, it looked pretty full. So I don't. It's apparently working. I've not done Cosm. I've been wanting to and just keep forgetting, or I'm busy covering something. But yeah, so we might be together in person for that. I guess it'd be the 6th because media days are the 7th and 8th, right? Big 12.
Yeah,
that's right. The night of the 6th. Okay, so we'll figure that out. Anyway, moving forward, folks, please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't. I think we've just gone over 800 subscribers. We're trying to get to 1,000 before the season. It just really helps the show as we go into year 2 of this podcast. If you want to watch Bunch Formation Bowl 8. David versus me in the CFB 26 Dynasty. That is under the live tab. Did not go well for me, but that is the last CFB 26 game we will be playing because 27 is coming out soon.
We're here. We made it. Well, sort of, but
almost. Well, we will have some sort of review episode about that game in the coming weeks or so. We're going to have to kind of really get into it, I think, before we do that. And also, tell your friends about the show if you like the show as we head into the season. You know, the numbers are really good the first year. We're looking to grow it. Again, it's just me and David here. No producers, no nothing. We're just doing this on our own because we like it. So tell your friends if you like the show. It's something we're getting into as we get into the season. You can jump into the show notes if you want to jump ahead in this episode. We'll have timestamps in there. Send emails to bunchformationpod@gmail.com, including if you want to advertise this upcoming season. We are also Bunch Formation everything on social media. Please leave a 5-star review. We will read it on the show, but we have no new ones. And that means we start off with the news. And to do that, we go into the media scrum.
That's why I don't read the newspaper. Because it's garbage.
If you were hoping the Brendan Sorsby news was done, it is not yet. Last week, the NFL denied Brendan Sorsby in the supplemental draft. The NFL decided not to hold a supplemental draft, which Sorsby would have been in. And in a letter to Sorsby, they basically laid out why. And I'll read this here because we'll get through this quickly, but there's some interesting points here. Letter from the NFL to Sorsby, quote, the league does not have the complete record of the NCAA's investigation, and you did not provide any such materials with your petition. Available information nonetheless indicates that over the course of your collegiate career, you knowingly engaged in repeated and significant violations of NCAA rules designed to preserve the integrity of athletic competition. Reported conduct includes placing wagers on your own team and teammates, and to avoid detection, establishing or funding accounts in the names of intermediaries who place bets on your behalf. There are also reports you may have violated state criminal law. Your petition does not address these matters, nor does it demonstrate accountability for your conduct or indicate whether or how you would adhere to the league's rules and policies governing the integrity of competition. Instead, even after receiving notice of the NCAA's decision rescinding your college eligibility in May, you sought to avoid the consequences of that determination through litigation rather than accepting responsibility for your actions, and you pursued entry into the NFL only after abandoning those efforts. Woo! Wow. And Sorsby's lawyer said they'll take this to the NFLPA. It violates the CBA, violates state law. I don't know about that. We'll see. We may have something happen later this week. But, David, that's a scathing rebuke from the NFL to basically say, we don't want to deal with Sorsby right now. You are not eligible to join us until the 2027 NFL draft like everybody else. What'd you think?
I think we might see Brendan Sorsby coming to a JUCO field near you. At this point, what other choice do you have for the fall? There's people talking about the UFL, but that's a spring league.
UFL is a spring league. The CFL has said no, although I don't think Sorsby was going to do the CFL anyway.
No, it's like week 3 anyway. It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. And with JUCO, so this is what Hunter Deckers did. Remember, former Iowa State quarterback, bet on his team, got booted. He sat out a year, basically, then came back, did JUCO, then got signed in the NFL and the UFL, where he played for, of all teams, the Houston Gamblers. So that is a potential path here. We'll see. I don't know what case there is, because Sorsby's not part of the NFL Players Association. You're not part of the EPA until you get drafted or sign with the team. He's not eligible to do either of those things. And I don't know if the NFLPA really wants to take on this fight when they've got many other important things going on. But the NFL has decided we're setting a line that's gambling on your own team. This is one thing we will not provide extra care for. And by the way, you didn't show any kind of personal accountability. And that was something that I have thought about this whole time, which was, if Sorsby had just taken the suspension, the ban, showed contrition, talked about all these things he was going to do, that would have helped his case with the NFL, I think. Maybe. Instead, he goes to rehab and sues his way back into college football and wins. And then you have all these things from all these other people talking about it until the Big 12's lawsuit and everybody kind of backs off. So I do feel bad for him at this point. I think he might be getting some very bad advice from a lot of different people.
The crux of all this is, if you are his agent, his representation, there's an element of, you need to put out feelers and understand how this is going to go, or at least have the contacts in the NFL to know, hey, what do I need to do to apply it to the supplemental draft? It seems like the obvious thing was, at the NFL offices, there's a clear frustration with him. And he was going to need to get past that. And it feels like his representation had no idea that feeling existed. It was almost like all of this fight that was making front page news nationally, it seemed like they thought it was happening in a vacuum. And it's like, well, if we just go in the NFL, they won't even know about any of this, as if these people are not paying attention to this at all. And that's your representation's responsibility. I don't know that that's your lawyer. Yeah. It seems like Jeffrey Kessler's done a good job. He's won in court a lot where it seemed unlikely. But you've underestimated the blowback on the college front. You put your university, I say your university, the relationship between him and Texas Tech is tenuous at best. We're talking about 5 months of a relationship, 6 months. You put Texas Tech in a really awkward position where they basically have to betray a player or make themselves public enemy number one in college football. And now, like you've kind of it's obvious that the NFL is not your biggest fan either here. You're sort of like a man without a nation at this point.
Yeah, I will say I'm surprised. I was surprised when the NFL thing came down, but in hindsight, I don't think I should have been. And that's
Yeah.
probably me misreading situations as much as everybody else. Also, David, check your mic. I want to make sure you're on the right microphone there. But let's move forward now to NCAA eligibility, and an actually really interesting thing. I think the biggest change to eligibility since they allowed freshmen to play. The D1 cabinet last week. The D1 cabinet last week passed a new 5-year eligibility rule beginning in fall 2027. There will be no more red shirts, no more waivers or extensions. Players get 5 years to play up to 5 seasons. And that clock starts at when you enroll in college or you turn 19 years old, whichever is earlier. There are exceptions for pregnancy, military, and religious mission. But this is a pretty big thing now. Everyone's going to get 5 years if you go the normal path. If you come in later, like a European basketball player or a hockey player, and you're older than 19, then maybe you have less than 5 years to complete that. But you will get 5 years to do up to 5 seasons. And this is just trying to standardize this all. Everybody's been so tired of red shirts and suing for extra years and all this kind of stuff. This, I think, was widely supported within the schools. There's a student group that put out support for this as well. Because I think like high school kids don't like that players get 8 years of eligibility. That takes a spot from them. So I think this is really smart. And the NCAA is going to get sued over this, but that was always going to happen. And I think it was something worth doing.
Yeah, I mean, this was a topic, at AFCA that was majorly on the front page of that they spent a lot of time talking about in the head coaches meeting. Most people are 4 or 5 for 5. The only people who aren't are people who just finished exhausting their eligibility and will not be eligible for this, which these are the people that are suing. But you see high school people that are in favor of this. Everybody wants this. The waivers had frustrated people, and so this is something that a lot of people support. It simplifies everything. I do have some questions about like what will players be classified as now?
Yeah, what do we call them now? Like
I have no idea. It seems like you're gonna have to go to a number system or something. I'm like second class or
that might maybe
2.
like
I don't know.
As opposed to freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Even if you say 5th year, it's going to be weird to call someone a senior if it's not their last year. We may just have to go with first year, second year, third year, 4th year, 5th year, and wherever they are on that scale. Third year quarterback blank, 5th year senior, something like that. Like super senior would have been fun, but I don't think we can really say senior anymore if it's not their last year. But as you said, some basketball players.
When we talk about the coaches, the reason that they ended up not recommending it is because they knew that it was going to open the door to litigation. I am curious what made the NCAA sort of say like, okay, we're going to stomach the litigation, because it seemed like that was putting everybody on pause, knowing that this stuff was coming, and then all of a sudden, like, we know it's coming, but we're going to push ahead anyway. And I think most people support that very high approval rating, pretty much at every level of college athletics.
Yes, David needs to fix his internet again. He glitched out. Now he's on a delay on the video once again. So this seems to happen. But you're right, because yes, there are a group of basketball players that are starting to sue over this because they just finished. They don't get the 5th year. What about us? And my thought on that is someone was going to be under the cutoff point, and you were just going to have to deal with that. And by waiting until June to pass this instead of in the spring or last fall, I had a bunch of football coaches reaching out to me asking, hey, is this passing? I need to know if this player on my team is going to get another year. But the NCAA knew we need to get out of the cycle, get to the next season. So there you go. And like, I do understand the players upset they didn't get an extra year, especially the guys who would have made a lot more money off of it. It's the same thing that the House settlement was. People sued because they didn't get the NIL that current players get. But you went into school thinking you got 4 years, and you ended school when people only got 4 years. So it's not like something was necessarily taken away from you. But it's a pretty big change. Again, it doesn't start until fall 2027. Current players will be grandfathered in. They can get the extra year or go by the old rules, whichever one is more beneficial. And then for recruits, it's starting next fall. So pretty big change there. Another big change, sort of. The D1 cabinet ends the 2-year bowl ban transition for FCS to FBS teams. So congratulations to North Dakota State and Sacramento State. If you go 6-6, you're bowl eligible this year. And this had come up a lot in recent years with all the schools moving up. Your JMUs, your App States, your Jacksonville States, your Sam Houstons, all of those. And some of them had to miss out on a bowl game because they were within that 2-year window. The cabinet has finally said, forget about it. You move up, you're good. So it's big for North Dakota State because that's a team I think will contend for the Mountain West and can do that. Sac State,
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but a good change there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think that rule is in place to make sure that people were jumping to FBS for the right reasons. But these institutions were making really deliberate decisions. Those transitions were going well more often than they were going poorly. It was an outdated rule. Glad we're adjusting with the times.
Yes. And lastly here, Chaz Coleman, highly touted edge rusher in the transfer portal, came from Penn State. He has been medically disqualified and is no longer on the roster, according to a school spokesperson. The 19-year-old had been dealing with some mental health issues, being away from home and stuff like that, according to a lot of reports. It's very weird what was going on in the spring with him. And he left the team halfway through spring practice. Came from Penn State to Tennessee, where he had also worked under Jim Knowles, who's the new defensive coordinator there. But that was an edge rusher who was reportedly going to make upwards of $2 million. So there were a lot of high hopes for him, a young edge rusher. Not happening. David, as someone who knows the Tennessee program a lot, any quick thoughts?
You hope he's doing okay. You hope that he can sort of get his hands around whatever he needs to get his hands around. Bad luck for Tennessee. That was probably the highest profile guy that they've gotten out of the portal, maybe ever, in terms of just an established talent. Good package deal coming over with Jim Knowles. So sometimes it doesn't work out, and hopefully he can recover and whatever his football journey looks like next. Hope it goes well for him.
Yes. Okay, and with that, let's move forward into our coach draft. And to do that, we got to jump into the heat check.
Throw him in the garbage.
And before we get into the coach draft, we got some emails about the quarterback draft. David sent to bunchformationpod@gmail.com.
Uh-oh.
Some people who disagreed. We got an email from Tyler Saponaro, who appears to be an Ohio State fan, because he says,
people on the internet disagreed with something.
He says, obviously I am biased, and I think I could have written a 10,000-word email on some contradictory stuff you guys said about Julian Sayin that apply to other quarterbacks you drafted ahead of him. But the most egregious statement goes to Chris for blaming the pick 6 against Miami on Sayin. As always, appreciate you fellas and enjoy the pod. He then replied again and said, my bad. The most egregious thing was David saying that Cam Coleman was, quote, way more physically imposing than Jeremiah Smith. I'll respond first.
He is.
So, first off, turns out they're both 6'3", and Jeremiah Smith weighs more. I looked this up. I didn't realize that. Physically, Jeremiah Smith's bigger. So, that's a pretty good.
Okay, but
Cam
Coleman is, I would bet my life Cam Coleman is faster.
Faster or stronger? Or both?
I would say maybe both.
It's good to mix it up. Everybody has known Jeremiah Smith is the best wide receiver in the sport for a very long time. So the idea that we're kind of like, let's not forget about Cam Coleman, because a lot of people did because he played at Auburn. I think that's a fair thing to say there. My point, I didn't blame the pick 6 on Julian Sayin. I just think about that play when I think about Julian Sayin. The block was missed. It might have been Jeremiah Smith, actually. Somebody missed their block, and it let the DB come down and just catch that interception in stride and go all the way. Anyway, so you were we were both kind of hating on Julian saying there, and so wanted to give Tyler the floor on that. But then we also got an email from Ty Overheiser who said, "Can you guys explain the media and some fandom hype over Julian saying? I understand he led the country in completion percentage.
Is there hype?
I understand he led the country in completion percentage, but what part of his play makes you guys think he should be so highly ranked? This may be my bias talking, but if all else remained equal and he was swapped with Bryce Underwood, the discourse around both of them would drastically change." David, since you picked him, you go with that. What do you think?
I don't know. Bryce Underwood is a bad example there. I think ultimately it's just a guy that has a really high floor, doesn't have a lot of bad tape out there. But I think Julian saying, I think the best comparison for him is more like a JJ McCarthy. It's like he's not asked to do that much. You're not getting it's not the same. It's not the same. But I'm just saying that the pieces around you are lifting you up, and we don't really know what you are made of. Again, you're the 4th or 5th best player on that team. Ohio State's not getting down 13-0 in a game and asking Julian Sayin to throw them back into it. They're getting up 17-0 in games and asking Julian Sayin to throw the flats or hit a wide open Jeremiah Smith on a comeback route because he's torching every DB that's covering him. It's more just that we don't know the nature of Ohio State, their schedule, their talent, the gap between how much better Ohio State is than almost every team that they play, especially in the regular season. Is we don't really know what his ceiling necessarily is, and he hasn't had to prove to us that he is a game changer. You look at Bryce Young. Okay, that's a good example. He's a guy that you saw him have a lot of talent. And then that last year, he was Alabama's team. They couldn't really run the ball very well. The receivers were not great. And he put together some unbelievable tape because he had to carry that entire Alabama team that was not a great Alabama team compared to some that we've seen in the past. And we just don't know because we don't know what Julian Sayin necessarily is. And so to just decide that he's the best in the country when a lot of these guys do have the hopes and dreams of their programs on their shoulders, he has not had that yet. I don't think he's going to have that in 2026. So that's really the issue with Julian Sayin at this point. It's not his fault.
There was a game in which they fell down behind 14-0 and he had to throw their way back into it. And that was the Miami game, and it didn't go very well. So there's that. But there was EA Sports released the top 10 quarterbacks. I think they might have released all the rankings of players. But on the list of top 10 quarterbacks, number 2 was Julian Sayin, 94 overall. And while I think I had the better draft, if we go by the EA Sports rankings, you had the better draft because here was the top 10. First, the top 5. Dante Moore, Julian Sayin, Trinidad Chambliss, Jaden Maiava, CJ Carr. You had 4 of those top 5 in the video game. So, I mean, technically we may have to give you the draft there. And then Arch Manning, Darian Mensah, Sam Levitt, Noah Fafita, John Mateer. So those last 2 guys were not in our top 10 draft. No Drew Mestamaker on here. Although I wouldn't be surprised if when we get those QB rating updates, at one point during the season, that maybe we see some other guys up there, but it's a credit to you on that. So something that doesn't have coach rating, well, they kind of do, but they don't have OVR ratings, and that is coaches. So let's get into our college football coaching draft. We're going to do the same thing we did with quarterbacks. We're each going to draft 5 each, and it can be on pretty much any criteria you want, but basically we're not judging their resume. It's basically like right now. Like right now, who would you take for whatever criteria you want? And David, since you went first last time on the quarterbacks, I'm going to go first this time. Is that okay?
No, it's not okay, but I'll let you do it if that's what you need.
We can do a coin flip again if you want.
No, go ahead.
I actually realize this actually makes my job harder by going first because I think there's a clear top 2 we all know, but I am going to go with Curt Cignetti, Indiana. He is not only the reigning national champion, taking Indiana of all places to the national championship. He has never had a losing record in 16 seasons as a head coach, and in those 16 seasons, He has 12 top 25 finishes at all levels. He's 46-6 since moving up to Division I. He's 27-2 at Indiana. He beat Oregon twice. He beat Ohio State this year. And he just never loses. Like the bobblehead that we got says, it is what it is. Like, this is a pick that's more than just what he did last year at Indiana. That is a big part of it. But he literally has always won at every level he's been at. So that track record is extremely impressive to me. He's the guy who moved JMU up from FCS to FBS and won the Sun Belt East Division in his first season, but couldn't go to a bowl game because of that rule that just got changed. Like, this is a guy who's done it all. I'm going to go Curt Cignetti, Indiana. What do you think?
Clear number one. Good pick. I didn't have to think about it. I'm sure you didn't have to think about it too. I think there's a clear number two as well.
I did. Yeah, you go.
Kirby Smart, Georgia.
Yes.
Still a guy that took Georgia from being a good program. I don't think cursed is fair. They just weren't good enough. Like, they just didn't get it done. And built them into a juggernaut. I think they're still struggling with how the program can best thrive in this new era of college football, where they're having to understand how to win and win big when you can't stack talent the way that they would. But how many coaches, other than Nick Saban, can stack talent in the way that Kirby Smart can? I don't think it's very deep. You could say Ryan Day. I would argue that Ryan Day does not have to deal with the level of competition on the recruiting trail that Kirby Smart does. We can talk about that later. But ultimately, still has a program that I think is one of the best in college football, and took it over when it was not in that shape. Obviously, a very accomplished defensive coach as well. The shining jewel atop the Saban coaching tree that has got a lot of withered branches. But give me Kirby Smart, number two. Two-time national champion, I believe. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think there is a real debate to have between Cignetti and Smart. I was like really close to picking Kirby Smart. And here's why. Because it's what you just said at the end. Like, everyone's like, oh, Georgia. Of course, Georgia is one of the best programs in the country. It was not that when he took it over.
Hadn't been.
No, they hadn't won a title since the 80s. Like, it was not a program that was like winning it was winning like 9 games a year basically under Mark Richt. They needed somebody to take it to a higher level. Kirby Smart comes in, 2 national championships, winning 85% of his games. And other than that, he goes 8-4 that first year. Every year since then, 9 straight top 7 finishes. I don't think we're going to see many other coaches doing that moving forward. It's a credit to what he has turned that thing into. And it's not really, it's still one of the most talented teams every year. However,
Nick Saban did not have a peer on the recruiting trail. Kirby Smart became that very, very quickly, where they were neck and neck with Alabama. I think they were trading the number 1 recruiting class every year for like 5 years there toward the end of the Saban run.
Yeah, if you want somebody who can max out what you have, that's what Kirby Smart is doing. However, the last 3 years, Georgia has not made the semifinals. They missed the 4-team playoff in 2023 after going 12-1. Then they lose in the second round to Notre Dame. Then they lose in the second round to Ole Miss last year. So it's a bit of a dry spell, as much as one can be for a coach who's 36-6 in the last.
Should be noted, they lost a close playoff game on a neutral field without their starting quarterback.
Yes, the Notre Dame one. Yep, that's a very fair point. Okay, I've got the number 2 pick here. I think there was a clear number 2, there was a clear top 2, and then there's a clear like next 3-ish.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of which order do you want to go in here? And I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Dan Lanning.
That was my third. I was confident in my number 3. Go ahead.
He is 48-8. And of those 8 losses, 6 of them are to teams who played in the national championship that year or won the national championship that year. It's Washington twice. It's Ohio State who won it. It's Indiana twice. And the other was one of the other ones. Who I forget which year that was, but 6 of his 8 losses teams who play for the national championship. He is recruiting at an elite level, which they were before he got there. And there's another coach who may come up. We'll talk about, but it's a guy who I think understands today's game as good as anybody. Now he does need to get over the hump. You can't be losing twice in the same season to Washington or to Indiana. Where are the adjustments being made? I think that's a big thing. Being blown out by Ohio State in the Rose Bowl last year and being blown out by Indiana in the Peach Bowl this year, there are concerns there, but he's still a young guy, still only been in the program for 4 years. They are going to be one of the best teams in the program in the country as long as he is there. And he's right in that. There's a group of guys in this like kind of second-ish tier, but I'm going to go with Dan Lanning.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
All right, I like to pick. I was very torn on the rest of my top 10. But I'm going to go with track record here narrowly, and I'm going to go Kalen DeBoer. It has not gone fantastic at Alabama, but it has not gone bad, and they've recruited pretty well. The portal was not great. But ultimately, I think that some of the I would say people have kind of soured slightly on Kalen DeBoer, maybe in the last couple of years since he's been at Bama. And I think that makes people forget everything else that he has done. Going back to Washington, he inherited Washington was in incredibly dire straits, absolutely terrible team that Jimmy Lake left him.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, yes. It was like a weird, like one bump down.
Yes. But they bad.
They had been solid. Jimmy Lake takes Chris Peterson. They made a playoff. Jimmy Lake comes in and it goes down right away.
Yes.
After 2,
they were
he's fired. Was he fired after 1 season? Was it 1 COVID season?
1 or 2.
I think it was 1 season.
Maybe it was right before the end of 2. I think so. Anyway.
I'll look it up. Yeah.
Takes over that situation immediately. Washington is good. They win 11 games in year 1. He goes 25-3 in 2 years. Obviously gets Washington from the Pac-12 to the national championship game. They lost to Michigan, but still very strong performance at Fresno as well. And then, of course, his performance at Sioux Falls before then, and then a very accomplished assistant before Signetti. Probably gave Indiana one of its proudest runs, that 2019-2020 back-to-back run, where they won a bunch of games that COVID year, got to the Gator Bowl.
We don't need to get into we don't need to get into Kalen DeBoer's time as an assistant.
But that's the case for him, basically.
Yeah.
Is that he has had a ton of success leading up to this, and the only thing that he's been given a knock for is, well, he's not as good as Nick Saban, but still pretty good. So I'm going to go narrowly here. Give me Kalen DeBoer.
Yes, I was between him and Dan Lanning as well. Kalen DeBoer, by the way, went 3-0, I think, against Dan Lanning when he was at Washington. Beat him twice the 1 year they went to the title game. It's an extremely fair point. That's why I was considering.
And he is 2-0 against Kirby Smart.
No, they 2-1. They lost the SEC championship game.
Excuse me, 2-1. That's right.
Yes,
they got outclassed last year.
Kalen DeBoer, 54-14 since 2021, 11 wins in 3 of the last 4 years, 2 playoff wins across 2 different playoffs, and he had the number 2 recruiting class last year. So, looked like he could do that. The problem is they currently have the number 47 class, including none of the top 15 guys in the state of Alabama. That's weird. However,
it's early, but yes.
Yep, sort of early. You have to think, though, we know Alabama is not spending with the biggest spenders, one of which is Oregon, which Dan Lanning has. That is a factor in it as well. Nick Saban didn't really have to do much against this world. How would Nick Saban have recruited if he didn't have, a top 5, maybe even top 10 payroll? So, with DeBoer, they would lose games they shouldn't lose. It happened in the first year. They lost to Oklahoma. Even the second loss to Oklahoma last year was a tough one, the Vanderbilt game. But then he'll do something like take Alabama to Oklahoma, come from behind and win a playoff game on the road. And it's that's the Kalen DeBoer we know. He wins those big games. It's the other ones that maybe aren't as good. And so this is going to be a real gut check year for them. Like, can they run the ball? They were terrible at running the ball last year. Can they fix the offensive line and the defensive line? What are they going to be in the trenches? We'll see. But it's a really good pick. I was considering him too. My third pick now, I'm going to go with Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame. To me, it was these three guys were kind of in this next year. Marcus Freeman's 43-12, 34-7 over the last 3 years. Took Notre Dame to the national championship game. It's 5-4 against top 10 teams. But he's recruiting at a very, very high level, at a level in which we didn't think was possible anymore. Because remember, when Brian Kelly left, he leaves to go to LSU thinking that's an easier place to get players and win a national championship. Marcus Freeman signed the top 5 class last year. They're currently the number 2 class. They're doing a very, very good job. He has gotten a lot of investment out of that school to really kind of help build out the infrastructure. He's the guy who may go to the NFL soon, and NFL teams are looking. But when you talk about guys who like know this era of college football, he's absolutely one of them. So that's my pick. What do you think?
I like it. That's who I would have picked there. And now I am very torn on my list.
I think there's a clear number 6 between the two of us. To me, there was like
I think
clear 3 and then another clear 3 or 4.
I think you bullied me into making this pick that I don't particularly want.
No
to
way.
Make
No.
pick.
Are you really going to do this?
Because I would describe myself as a mild detractor for reasons that we can discuss. But just as you bullied me into taking Julian Sayin, I'm not an Ohio State hater, for the record. I do sound like one more often than I would like. But I will take Ryan Day, that is national champion Ryan Day, on the list. I think there is a lot of ammo out there if you would like to say that Ryan Day is slightly overrated. I think
which you have shared plenty.
Which I have shared. But ultimately, you're talking about a guy that has not won fewer than 11 games at any point in his career at Ohio State, barring obviously the COVID year. And like results are results. The Michigan thing was the Michigan thing, but 55-5 in Big Ten play is, it is what it is. Like results speak for themselves. And you can say, they got to beat more teams that are on their plane that are better than them. And that I think that's fair. But I think you do deserve credit for just not losing dumb games hardly ever. So I'm going to go with Ryan Day. Took over a program in very good shape, has continued it, has taken it to really high heights, and has continued to win. So Ryan Day. Can't believe you did this to me, Chris.
When I think it was last year, I was ranking the top 25 coaches of the 2000s for a story I was doing. And in one of our group chats, I was sharing the list for feedback. And you were so adamantly against Ryan Day on that list because you had
should be noted, I believe this was pre-national championship, I think.
No, it was going into last season. It was coming off the national championship.
Maybe.
But your feeling had always been he took over for a guy who won a bunch, who took over for a guy who won a bunch. Ohio State's been good
and Ohio State's kind of
70 years.
Ohio State might be the best recession-proof program in the country.
Yes. So he's 82-12. He's got 1 national championship, a second appearance in the championship game, and if they make that field goal against Georgia on New Year's Eve, he's probably got TCU. 2 national championships because they would have played TCU in the national championship game.
And Kirby would probably have won.
He's been close to a lot more accolades than he has. 6 top 5 appearances in the last 7 years. But a very weird stat that I found when I was putting together the notes for this. He's been the coach for 7 seasons, I think. He has, and he's 55-5 in Big Ten play, as you said. He only has 2 Big Ten championships, which is very weird. It's the first 2 years. It was 2019 and 2020. Then he lost to Michigan 4 years in a row. and lost a Big Ten championship to Indiana this past season. So people may want to say the conference championship doesn't mean anything anymore. Sure. But it is weird that Ryan Day does not have more than 2 Big Ten championships, considering how dominant he has been. He's only lost, I think, to Michigan, Oregon once on the road, and Indiana in the Big Ten championship game.
Big Ten championship game.
So it's, I'm surprised you took that, and I'll tell you why. Because, well, so my pick here is going to be Steve Sarkisian from Texas.
I just couldn't pick him over Ryan Day. I couldn't do it.
So, like, that's the case. Like, you say Ryan Day, they're both at rich schools. Ryan Day has a national championship and another title game appearance. Steve Sarkisian only has 2 semifinal appearances, which is a fair point. But I would say he also has 3 straight 10-win seasons when Texas had only had 1 in the previous 10 years. Like, he did take over a program that was not good.
But here's the thing, is the reasons for Texas floundering in the last, we'll say 15 years, going back to 2010 when they went 5-7. I think they're largely Texas-based reasons. I don't think that you can look around and say, this is why Texas is struggling. I think they had, Mac Brown, his best years are behind him. Charlie Strong hire did not go well. The Tom Herman hire was a slam dunk when they made it. That did not go well. And the irony of all ironies is that when they did get an excuse for things to go tougher, they moved into the SEC. Now the program has gone into hyperdrive. If Texas was throwing out these rosters the last 5-6 years they were in the Big 12, they would have destroyed that conference. But they didn't have this kind of roster. And I think the roster building that Sark is doing is great. I think you can make a case that his degree of difficulty has been higher and he has taken a program to heights that has not enjoyed in a long time. But I just couldn't get over, like, results and trophies. They got to matter. And so it's close. I'll listen to the case, but I had to go with Ryan Day over Sark.
And he lost to Ryan Day in that Cotton Bowl.
Head-to-head.
Head-to-head. Sark beat him. Although, I guess, because Ryan Day did win this year's game. Did they? Yeah, they play again this year. So
they played at the start of the season. So
yeah, we'll get a rubber match here. We'll get into kind of week 1 stuff pretty soon here. But I think Steve Sarkisian kind of doesn't get enough credit. Like you said, 13-3 in SEC play. Like they moved over and have done very well. And 2 of those losses are Georgia. So like that's that's been kind of the bugaboo for them. But I think Sark's done a really good job there. But this is kind of a year where you can't be going, finishing ranked 15th and losing to a couple of those teams you lost to and missing out on the playoff. I know the schedule's really hard, but that's what you all signed up for.
I mean, you talk to anybody in college football, coaches, personnel people, it's not a runaway, but Texas clearly has the best roster. Like, they clearly do. The star power at the top, the experience, the depth. You add Hollywood Smothers, you add Cam Coleman, you have Arch Manning year, I guess 2.5, you don't have to win the national championship, I think, for people to be feeling good, but you gotta be better than they were last year. Last year, the Florida game, the Kentucky game, like Texas,
Mississippi State.
They didn't get Texas didn't get in the playoff because of Texas reasons.
Correct, not Ohio State reasons, but big year for Texas. Like you got to go like semifinal or better, I think, because if you have Arch for this run, and the best you can say is Quinn Ewers took us to 1 semifinal, then we lost 3 games, and we didn't do, and then Arch is gone. Like that was the whole thing in getting him. So big year coming up for Texas. Who's your 4th pick?
I'm going to go with the barely active Kyle Whittingham. Again, results, titles, championships, maxing out what is possible. Utah, just a team you did not want to play. And I think you could replace Kyle Whittingham with a lot of coaches certainly there's a case that the coaches we've named before him, if they had coached the last 20 years at Utah, I don't think their results would have matched up with him. It's the same thing. It's why like it's the Bill Snyder argument, right? And now we're sort of getting Kyle Whittingham at a blue blood. We'll see what this Michigan thing, sort of a shotgun marriage, weird fit. We'll see how it goes, but I don't think you can argue with resume, consistency, tough teams, winning at a place where it's not the easiest to win, not the easiest to bring in talent, developing, all of those things. Kyle Whittingham, Utah / Michigan.
It's still weird because I type Kyle Whittingham into my notes and I write Utah next to the name. Like
I'm
still
because we
trying to
haven't
remember.
seen it. It's like you've every time you've seen Kyle Whittingham, it's the salt and pepper, it's the black hat with the Utah logo. That's Kyle Whittingham. It's gonna be weird to see him at Michigan. It still hasn't really hit me necessarily.
This is going to be such a important part, I think, of his legacy because, like you said, we never saw Bill Snyder at a bigger program. We never saw Gary Patterson at a bigger program. Kyle Whittingham's at Michigan now, one of the best resource teams in the country that won the national championship a few years ago. If you got the former number one recruit, Bryce Underwood, a quarterback. If he takes this team in a conference that has Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, all going to be really good. If you're going into that Ohio State game with a chance at making the Big Ten title game on the line, if you beat Ohio State in year one, like get into the playoff, like that immediately shoots him up even more.
Maybe top 3
in the greatest coaches of this era ranking. I want to say I had him somewhere in the teens in my top 25 coaches of the 2000s, but that's because it was all relative to where he was. If you can go to a place with resources and win, then you're up there. The flip side, if it doesn't work out, maybe that's another factor of like, maybe he wasn't actually as big time as we thought. He was in the safe spot of Utah in a conference that wasn't as good. But he's had 4 10-win seasons in the last 6 full seasons and basically got derailed because of the injuries to Cam Rising for 2 years. Kind of had to get through that.
And that team was still a pain in the butt to play.
Yes. So Michigan is going to be, we'll do a list at some point, maybe preseason, but Michigan is one of the most interesting teams this season to me. I have no idea what to expect from them.
You could talk me into 15-0, whatever, or you could talk me into 8-4. I would listen to both.
So I was surprised you took Whittingham there. I had him. I have my board. I think I had him at 10th on my board here, which means I have a couple of options to pick from.
Because you're a hater, Chris.
For my last pick. No, it was that exact question. Like I haven't seen him do it at the highest stage, and so that was my only holding up point. But with my last pick here, I feel like it's kind of like you picking Ryan Day, but also like talking around the reasons to not like the pick. But at this point, I feel like I have to go with it. I'm going to go Lane Kiffin.
Okay.
Who's now at LSU. He's 32-6 in the last 3 years. He took Ole Miss to its greatest success in a very long time and left under very bad circumstances. But it's kind of that same thing where it's like he knows the current era of college football. You put those LSU resources behind him. I like what he's going to do. This is kind of more about projecting forward a bit with a little bit of track record, because like the knock I would have on him is he's never played in a Power 4 conference championship game. Didn't do it at Ole Miss. Didn't do it at USC, although he did have 1 year where they would have, but they were hurt by the probations. But he gets fired at USC. He had gotten fired some other places, the Raiders, Alabama as an assistant. Did a good job at FAU. His only conference championships are 2 Conference USA titles. But I think the track record of what he did at Ole Miss, you put that at LSU, you get the players he got. I'm buying the Lane Kiffin stock. I think he even said recently, like he said, we're going to win a national championship. I'm pretty sure I saw he said that would happen. Let me look see exactly what that was.
Yeah, I
But
believe he said we're going to. I don't know when, but he's like, talking a big game
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, these stupid AI overviews here on Google not helping anything. But yeah, he basically guaranteed that they'll win a championship. And you better, because if you don't, you're going to get fired there. That's the expectation at a place like LSU. So I'm going Lane at 5. What do you think of that? Would he have been your pick?
He's on my list. I'm torn between him and 2 others. But I like the pick. I think you could make, you could defend that pick. Certainly, there's a little bit of projecting for it. But at the end of the day, it's not as easy to win at FAU as people think it is.
Nobody else has done
it. Exactly. He helped modernize Alabama. It was a huge reason for them sort of changing and becoming like this receiver factory. And then on top of that, obviously the run he had at Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I think he's made people forget that it's really hard to win at Ole Miss because it's really hard to win at Ole Miss. Go look at the history. It's not great. It's not that different than Mississippi State. And he had built them into basically a team that was capable of beating everybody in the SEC, which is incredible.
So I think part of the reason I took Lane here too was that I didn't know if you would, and it was going to feel weird if he wasn't on the list. The order of picks you have made has really rearranged kind of how I've approached mine. But last pick here, there was a lot of options for these last couple of picks. We'll get into them. But who's your last pick?
So, considered Sataki.
Don't list all the people we're going to list off in a minute. Give your pick first, and then we'll talk about the people we left off.
Chris, I'm a Mike Elko believer.
I'm
going to go Mike Elko here. I think bringing some stability to that program, putting them in the playoff, giving them a taste of that is kind of incredible. And I think being able to do that while seemingly keeping the foundation pretty strong, the ceiling is incredibly high for what he can do there. And there's a lot of reasons to sort of raise your eyebrows at that. I think obviously chief among them is the inexperience. But again, Duke, not an easy place to win.
Duke, by the way, Duke had 3-9 the year before he got there.
3-9 the year before he got there, and then goes 9-3 or 9-4 there. Excuse me. In year 1, gets the A&M job. Figuring things out. At the end of the day, 110-win season, only 4 years as a head coach. I get that, but I like how he builds his teams. They are tough. He builds them on the line of scrimmage, but they're still pretty explosive. And he understands what you need to be great offensively. And, I like the Colin Klein hire, bringing him in. He's a guy that was maybe a little unproven. He'd only called plays in his alma mater. And then all of a sudden he's running the show at Texas A&M. Loved that hire. That worked out great. And
you do know that Colin Klein's not there anymore either, though. So
I'm well aware, but I'm just saying that when you have a head coach, a huge part of being a head coach is making hires, specifically your coordinator hires. And, obviously still running the defense, but knowing what you want and making that and bringing that to fruition, making your vision real, that offense going and getting what Colin Klein was going to bring to them was pretty much exactly what I think Texas A&M needed. Offensively, especially to sort of wash the taste of Jimbo out of their mouth and running an offense from 2013. The sport had changed. And so a lot of projecting forward, but I'm a Mike Elko believer.
So I had him just off of my list. And my question would be, I like him. Things are improving. I like the trajectory. I would just say to this point at A&M, how much has he really done yet that Jimbo hasn't done? And the closing of the last 2 seasons has been very concerning.
Agree.
Losing to Texas twice, losing in the playoff game in the manner that you did to Miami. Those are he's got them on the right path. I think he's a good coach. I'm surprised you took him over some of the other guys that were still on the board. I'm surprised you took a lot of the guys you took, and I know we're going to get yelled at here by the people we left off. And
By
let's
people on the
go.
internet?
Let's start with this. Let's go with the guys who missed the list. And we're going to start with the guy who just played in the national championship game. Mario
Yes,
Cristobal.
that's the next one.
I was
The in-game
very
stuff is what it is. It is what it is.
So I was between Lane, Kiffin, and Cristobal for my last pick. And of the two, it felt like Lane's kind of got a little bit more. Even though Mario Cristobal, people forget when he took over Oregon, they had a bad downturn under Mark Helfrich. Like they were in Willie Taggart, and it was kind of it was not good. He brings them back up into the top 5, and they win a Rose Bowl, and he starts recruiting really well. And that is the program that Dan Lanning takes over. And then he takes Miami from average to eventually the national championship game last year. And they had the ball at the end of the game with a chance to kind of go win it. So Cristobal has made every place he's been better.
Including
FIU,
Florida International. Don't undersell Florida International, where he was absolutely treated.
So I think Mario Cristobal should have been in the top 10 here. He's not. It's solely because of David. Just for the record.
Yeah, if only you had an opportunity to pick him, Chris. I don't know.
Well, I like I said, it was between him and Lane, and of the two, they both kind of have their ups and downs. But again, I was surprised you took Whittingham and Mike Elko and frankly Ryan Day, but I thought Ryan Day would go a little bit later. So other guys, Mario Cristobal, right on there. I think
Mario Cristobal is the one that I feel bad about.
So other than that, we've got Kenny Dillingham. I had him very close. In 2 years. So here's why. So he wins the Big 12 and makes the playoff. Nearly beats Texas that first year. The second year, I think going 8-5 last year with the injuries that they had was as impressive as anything else. I think there's a ceiling on that Arizona State program right now. He's basically there. Any thoughts on him?
Love him. I believe in everything he's doing program-wise. There's a lot of reasons why the results have not been better. Hard to put him in the top 10 when you just look at the results. Year one at Arizona State, you inherit a program in really bad shape. You get 9 quarterbacks hurt that first year. You have your 1 year where you kind of stay healthy. You ride Cam Scatterboo and Sam Levitt to the playoff and a Big 12 title. It's kind of like a 1 year thing. It's you can approve of what they did in 2025, and I think that's true, and I agree with you. And I think Kenny has a huge upside, but putting him in the top 10, I think is tough when you try to stack up his results versus any of the other guys who put on the list.
Here are the other ones: Lincoln Riley, Kalani Sitake, Matt Campbell, Dabo Sweeney, Clark Lee, Willie Fritz, Josh Heupel. I don't know if I said Matt Campbell already. Matt Campbell, Jeff Brom, James Franklin.
Jeff Brom was the other one that was very high on my list. Dabo Sweeney, if I was starting a program in 2012, I think I would be very excited to have him. But at this point, the sort of approach to roster building and having a program, I just don't know that it jives with having big time success in the modern sport. But obviously the accomplishments are what they are.
So Dabo Sweeney, 2 national championships, not even really in either of our conversations. What does that say?
It says that they have lacked elite talent on the recruiting trail. The 1 year that they had really, really good talent was this last year. And the program inexplicably flopped, and the NFL draft only further endorsed that level of talent. Most of that was defensive. But Cade Klubnik, certainly a disappointing career for him based on his recruiting rankings and his talent level. Just didn't really get up there. The revolving door at offensive coordinator is really, really concerning. It's been a weird run for them. We'll see if getting back together with Chad Morris will work, but the program is just in bad shape. All of the guys that I think are on our list, the trajectories of their program, maybe DeBoer aside, but he took over for Nick Saban. All the other guys on our list, the trajectory of their program is looking straight up. Clemson, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a lot of answers or a lot of people in the sport who would say, oh, yeah, Clemson will be back on the national stage very, very soon. Just don't see it.
Yeah, Clemson, it just feels like it's over. Like, I know they won
Mhm.
the ACC and reached the playoff 2 years ago, but like getting back into that top 10 picture again feels just so far off, especially with all the talent they just lost. So look, maybe every year we say maybe Dabo will prove us wrong, but we're getting farther and farther away from them
When's the
doing that.
last like big time Clemson win? Like that ACC championship game kind of felt like sort of a miracle. They blow that lead, then they win on the long kick. But like
So
respectfully to SMU, like that's not them going on the national stage and winning a big game. Like truly, when's the last big time Clemson win?
so that brings to the other last coach I was going to mention. That's Rhett Lashley, who
Mhm.
I think the like if I'm buying stock in a coach, buying
Yes.
in him. I think he's a
Yes.
fantastic coach. He took SMU to his first conference championship in 40 years, takes him to the playoff. And speaking of Sark moving to the SEC, he moves SMU up from the G5 into the ACC. They lose on a 50-something yard field goal, but they get into the playoff. And then this past year, if not for a late finish at Cal,
Do it
very
again.
likely would have gone to the playoff again, beat Mario Cristobal in Miami last year. And so that's when I was like ranking the coaches here. I was like, I guess I got to put Mario Cristobal over Rhett Lashley, but like, I think it's close.
Yes, I agree.
That's where like, I think I would take Rhett Lashley over Mike Elko right now. But they're obviously in two different level jobs.
Mhm.
So was there anybody else in terms of like top 10? There's other coaches I think are really good. Jason Eck, Brian Newberry, like there's guys,
Mhm.
Willie Fritz, but they're not like top 10 to me. Was there anybody else you had on any of your lists?
No, you mentioned Jeff Brom. We kind of talked about James Franklin briefly. No,
Franklin's an
I
interesting
think
one.
Franklin is an interesting one.
A
Has
guy
its
who's,
detractors.
I think last year kind of took it. He would have, if he was still at Penn State, if they had made the playoff, lost in the first round or whatever, like he'd still be in this conversation. But to lose the way he didn't for it to end so quickly, they were in the semifinals 2 years ago. Like this guy was always finishing like in the top 10, top 8. But
The
now
thing,
that
the
you're
thing
in
that
a
I think
job,
makes this really hard, Chris, and I had a discussion with a coach not that long ago, and this is a common complaint that I hear from a lot of coaches. Really, but we were talking about it in depth. Is it is very hard for people in our business to assess the quality of coaches because you can point at the results, but when we don't know what the budgets on these rosters are, you can kind of guess. You can kind of get a feel. You kind of know who's living in the upper crust. You can kind of feel for who doesn't quite have that last punch, who can still get outbid on some guys. Alabama.
Alabama.
Yes, you kind of, and you have a good feel for like who's punching way above their weight. Kenny Dillingham. You kind of have a feel for that, but you don't know, and it makes it very hard to feel for like, hey, are there coaches who are taking over jobs and they just don't have a chance? Are there coaches who, like, if you asked around in college football, people like Joey McGuire, but Sorsby issue aside, like I think there's a lot of people, Sark obviously is one of them, sort of looking side eye at like, okay, you're in a Big 12 that has been certainly drained, and like his roster is his budget is way higher than just about everybody else in his league.
You know what we should do?
BYU is
You know
sort of
what
in a
we
weird
should do?
spot.
Maybe we do this next week in person. We should do a program draft. Let's each make like a 10-team conference, and we'll draft, and we'll include that type of stuff.
This goes with my long-standing take, Chris, that Texas Tech is a top 5 job in college football.
Well, in this situation, they're going to be placed in the conference of the teams you draft.
People really don't like that take. I 100% believe that take.
I understand the take in the context of them being in the Big 12. I'm saying if we do this draft and they're in a conference with, Georgia and LSU and Oregon and Indiana, is still the case. I don't know, maybe, but yeah. I think your take is different than the situation. But your point is very correct. Some of these coaches on this list have budgets that are way higher than other coaches on this list. And is that a fair comparison? Now, it would be nice for all the coaches would tell us how much they were spending on players, and then we could have some more context for that. But they
I've
don't wanna do
tried.
that.
I do my best every year, Chris. Nobody wants to talk.
You do. So here's the recap of the coaches. Email us, social media comment at us. Which team has which of the two of us has the better group of coaches? I have Kurt Signetti, Dan Lanning, Marcus Freeman, Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin. David has Kirby Smart, Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Day, Kyle Whittingham, Mike Elko. I think of the two, I like my upside. I think you've got more accomplishment.
Yeah, I think
So
that's
it
fair.
depends. Like sarcasm. Only one of my coaches has won a title, and it's the last one. You've got two coaches.
You've got
who
more
have won
street
titles.
cred, I think. If you asked the average college football fan, I think they would like your guys. But I think when you look at spot the ball, my guys are the guys that are holding the trophies at the end of the day.
Your draft is Kirby, DeBoer, Ryan Day, Whittingham, Elko. It's just not at all what I would have expected, I think, out of you. And it just kind of changed. Miami fans are going to be pissed that Mario Cristobal is not on this list. And I think they've got a fair case.
Yes,
and
I could have
taken.
I could have. It's interesting how many of these coaches are defensive coaches too, Chris. Like half.
Well, defense is kind of the name of the game in college football now. Like,
I know.
don't have
that wasn't the case
guys,
for like 10, 15 years.
We used to have 5, 6, 7 guys throwing for 4,000 yards. Only one did last year, and it was Drew Mestemaker at North Texas. So it's a different type of game. I like this though. It's interesting. So let us know who won. I think based on the quarterback draft, it was mixed, but according to the EA ratings, you won. We'll see how that plays out. Let us know which coaches you think here. Let us know which coaches we left off, who should have been on this list in terms of top 10. bunchformationpod@gmail.com. Let us know. This was fun, and we'll do.
We
some
gotta
more of
post
this.
a Twitter poll, Chris. I don't know if does Blue Sky have polls also. We gotta post
No.
polls.
Yeah, I was gonna try to make a graphic after our last episode, but I got pulled into so much World Cup work that I just kind of didn't have the time anymore. Speaking of that,
we'll get our intern to do it.
Yeah, again, it's just the two of us here, nobody else. Real quick, World Cup stuff. The U.S. advanced. They play Wednesday night, Bosnia Herzegovina. I will be on Tuesday. I'm covering Norway, Ivory Coast here in Dallas. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Erling Haaland, baby. Erling Haaland.
Yeah, I'm a Manchester City guy before they, won anything. So I'm very familiar.
Is that a top 3 hair in sports?
It's up there. Do you think I could wear my Man City jersey in the press box to cover the game?
Yeah, you probably wouldn't be the only one.
Maybe if they assigned me to go watch the game with the Norway fans and do the rowing, I could. So I spent the Japan-Sweden game with the Japan fans. The Athletics said, go write a story about their famous post-game cleanup. So I just spent the whole game in the Japan section. Had a blast. Most of them couldn't speak English. Didn't really matter. They were doing
You're a
so
professional
many
janitor now.
They were doing the cleanup ended up actually not even being that big of a thing because the Ultras group brings them these blue bags that they cheer with and inflate before the game, and then during the game and after the game they use it to put their garbage in it. So the game ends, and I'm expecting there's going to be just all this garbage. Everyone's going to be picking it up. I'm going to be getting video of this and doing it and all this stuff. Turned out most of them had just picked up their garbage as it was going on, and so the game ends and it's almost already totally clean because everybody had already kind of taken care of. So people were running for the exits as soon as the game ended, just like any other types of fan. But it was indeed spotless. They did totally clean it up, and a security guard had told me before the game that the first Japan game, he'd never seen a section so clean after a game. They really do it. It's part of the culture in Japan. It's not their home. They want to treat it with respect. There's some religious part of it too, in terms of just every object has a spirit.
Shintoism, isn't it?
Yeah, Shintoism. And some of the people are just this is the right thing to do. And it was just great to hear. Pick up after yourself, people. It may not seem like it's a big deal, but based on everybody else I talked to, it is. I'll link to that story. You can watch the videos on my social media as well. But had a lot of fun with that.
I will say can I have a question, Chris, on the Norway front? The rowing celebration, I'm unsure of the context for when they do this. elite. Are you okay if the Vikings steal this?
The Minnesota Vikings. So
Yes.
they already stole the Iceland chant where you do the clap over
skull,
your head.
yeah.
The skull. Yeah.
Mhm.
That came from Iceland. And now you've got Norway fans. If you've seen the videos in the stadium, on escalators, wherever, someone just hits a drum or a whistle and they all row. And then every time they do it and it
It's
speeds up
awesome.
and that kind of
So
stuff. It's incredible. And like, by the way, the first Europeans to discover America was not Christopher Columbus. It was the Vikings and Leif Erikson. So people know your history. And obviously there were already people here in America, and so should the Vikings take this? I think, you know who I think should take it?
Because there's not really a college football, is there?
Here's the thing. The state that has the most Norwegian Americans is Minnesota.
Okay.
And you know what team in Minnesota has a coach who likes rowing?
Oh, well, no, because
The Minnesota Golden Gophers.
Yeah, but if it lives,
row the boat, baby.
The short
Row
answer
the
to
boat,
that is
steam
yes. But like all things come to an end. PJ Fleck's not going to be in Minnesota forever, and I feel like if you lean into that, like when he's gone, you can't really keep it going. They've already killed my turnover chain. You can't kill it'd be too closely tied to PJ. That's the actual answer. You are correct in terms of culture on multiple levels, but I don't think you can do it because whenever whoever gets that job next.
If the Vikings take it, I am okay with it. And something I've kind of learned following soccer for a while is that chants kind of move across teams in a way that it's stolen, but it's done in like a respectful manner. Like Manchester City fans will do what's called like the Poznan dance, which is like everybody turns their back, they lock arms, and they like kind of jump up and down. They got that from another group. Japan fans are always singing Vamos Nippon. That's Spanish. And the Japanese fans and the Mexican fans are like very, very tight. And a lot of Croatian fans chant Ale. That's French. A lot of I think you can take these things and it's meant to be done in a respectful way. Like the Minnesota Vikings are called the Vikings. It's not like they're the Minnesotans and anyone pretending any of that stuff is from Minnesota. So I would be okay if the Vikings did it. What do you think?
I like it. All I ask is that we kill Mr. Brightside in all its forms. And controversial soccer take, Chris, you'll never walk alone. Sucks. I'm out.
Tell that to Pete Sampson, our resident.
It's lame. I'm sorry. The song's not great. Love the message. It's a vibe killer. I'm out.
I think there's a lot of traditions. You don't need to be adopted. Since we're at the end of the podcast and very few people are still listening, I have said college sports teams needs to adopt Freed from Desire.
No, this is your worst take.
I said this in the group chat. Y'all disagreed with me. This is a song that gets sung by a lot of European soccer fans. And instead of Freed from Desire, which is the chorus of the song, you say player X is on fire. Rodri's on fire.
No.
You're a golf guy. You remember the European golf team singing this when they beat the U.S. in the last Ryder Cup?
I blocked out any European Ryder Cup wins. I have no recollection of any of those wins. I'm pure. I just mainline the Brookline putt, the terrible shirts in '99. That's all the Ryder Cup.
So much like Zombie Nation is Penn State, Sandstorm is USC. I think Freed from Desire it's open for somebody to take this.
Yeah.
And you know who agrees with me is JJ Watt, who was on the Men in Blazers podcast, and this topic came up, the song, and he said someone in college needs to do this. So if you're a college fan out there, convince your team, your fan base to make that your song. It'll get over like crazy.
My other hot song college football take is I love Sandstorm. First of all, love the song in general. It's awesome that South Carolina has embraced it. They had Darude come and perform at the.
Is it Darude or Darude? I don't know how to say it.
It's Darude or Darude, whatever. But I think that in the event that Texas Tech ever wants to usurp it, a place that has actual sandstorms, that they should be. And also, my other song take. Which
No, wait. Shouldn't Sandstorm go to Arizona State or Arizona?
Texas Tech has actual sandstorms. I mean, if you have actual sandstorms in your campus, then yes. I'm sure some of those other places probably do. And they probably do, but like I've witnessed them in Lubbock. So any of those three schools, if they want to usurp it, South Carolina should allow them to have it. My other take is this won't happen in the Belichick era, but North Carolina has got to lean into Petey Pablo raise up in the hardest way possible. They had him perform like kinda at the start of the TCU game, but it was like not all the way in. That song should be cranking before kickoff. Give people towels. If they want to do their actual shirts, that's fine. But like Petey Pablo raise up should be playing at every North Carolina pregame, just cranked at the highest volumes.
For people who don't know, that's a song that mentions North Carolina a lot. Also mentions Virginia in it. I was looking up the lyrics. So I think that's it. So for people who don't know the song, go listen to it. It was a song came out in 2001, by the way. It's 25 years old. So
it should have been. We're 25 years late. I don't understand how that didn't immediately become the pregame anthem of North Carolina football. That is, who would have been the North Carolina coach in 2001? Whose feet
Mac
do we
Brown?
lay this at? No, Mac
Brown
was at Texas in 2000. No, Mac Brown was at Texas in 2001.
John Bunting.
Okay, John Bunting. This is on you. This is on you. It's you and was Gene Chizik there? Who am I forgetting?
I don't know. Anyway, that's that. That's our World Cup update talking about songs. But we're in the knockout rounds.
Petey Pablo, I'm trying to hook you up, man. I'm trying to hook you up.
We will do later in the tournament. We will have the conversation of World Cup expansion, the expanded tournament this year, playoff expansion in college, and the comparisons. I think it's still too early to do that because we're just now in the knockout stage. So we're still in a 32-team tournament when it's normally 16 at this point. But we will talk about that on a future episode to compare those. So with that, we will end the show the way we always do, and that is by remembering some guys.
It's better than this. Guys being dudes.
I'm going to keep the soccer thing going. I'm going to go with Andres Iniesta from Spain, a midfielder, scored the lone goal in the 2010 final. Was part of that kind of golden era for Spain for a while, where they were one of the best teams in a while. Then kind of fell off. Then came back, won Euros. They're one of the favorites to win this year, although they have not looked very good. But Iniesta, his goal against Netherlands to win the 2010 final wasn't like a beautiful goal by any means, but it was a big one. And that was a player who was very big in Spanish football at that period.
I'm going to keep it football, Chris. In retrospect, I should have remembered a coach that played college football, but I didn't think of it. So I'm remembering Eddie Royal, a very fun Virginia Tech receiver back in the day, had a nice little NFL career as well. Good return man, freshman All-American. I played with him a little bit on the video game as well. Eddie Royal, loved him. Loved watching him play. Beamer
Good
ball.
pick. And listener John Frazier writes in, says, "Hey, Chris and David, my nomination for remembering some guys is Zach Follett. Follett? The former Cal linebacker, easily one of my favorite players to watch while I was a kid. Zach is remembered as one of the most feared defensive players in recent California Golden Bears football history. High energy player known for his punishing hits and intensity, with an all-time great college football nickname, the Pain Train. He finished his Cal career with 245 tackles, 23.5 sacks, and a school record 13 forced fumbles. He was a 7th-round pick by the Lions in 2009, played 2 seasons before his career was cut short by a bad neck injury. Cheers, guys. I do remember Zach Follett. I do remember that brief period with the Lions, which otherwise was not a good period for the Lions. But I do remember him at Cal. I remember with the Lions. Good nomination.
I got to say, quick take on the way out, Chris. The best way to be remembered as a football player is being the hard hitter guy. That's a great guy to remember. Taylor Mays, guys who like their entire persona was just like, they just destroy people when they come over the middle. That's a great way to be remembered. So shout out to Zach Follett.
And it was better and safer maybe to make those hits when guys had giant shoulder pads, which they no longer do.
Look at that, Chris. I love the the full circle episode. Well
We're
said.
bringing it full circle. That's going to do it here. We should be back later this week. We'll try to do an episode on the 90s unless there's some big breaking news, which is always bound to happen.
I'll wear my Zubaz.
We're going to try to get the show out on Thursday. Probably record it before the U.S. game, but not for sure. Because they'll get the holiday weekend. Want to get an episode out. And then, David, you and I will see each other in person at Big 12 Media Days. Not at Cosm.
Gonna get some in and out at one of those two stops. Probably, I guess, Vegas, right? I don't know. I gotta get my in and out fill while I'm there. I got it on the way to the airport last time I was in Dallas, so we'll see.
All right, that's going to do it here for David Ubben. I'm Chris Vannini. Thank you for listening and watching Bunch Formation. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't yet, and please tell your friends about the show. Please recommend it. We're trying to grow this thing going into year 2. Looking forward to it. It's almost here. For David Ubben, I'm Chris Vannini. Thanks for watching and listening, and we will talk to you later this week.
Mario Cristobal, you want to be a top 10 coach in college football? Only do one thing. Bring back the turnover chain.